Saudi Arabia finds itself standing at a crossroads that encapsulates the great geopolitical dilemmas of the 21st century. At the heart of this dilemma is the question of BRICS membership, a seemingly technical issue about joining an economic bloc but one that carries profound strategic implications for Riyadh's place in the global order. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. The kingdom's hesitancy is telling. Invited to join in 2023, listed as a member on the BRICS website, and yet still withholding official confirmation. This carefully maintained ambiguity reveals a truth that lies beneath the headlines. Saudi Arabia is walking a tightrope between two worlds, one anchored in its long-standing alliance with the United States, and the other represented by a rising coalition of emerging powers led by China. The stakes are immense, and the choices Riyadh makes now will reverberate across decades. The timing could hardly be more delicate. U.S. President Donald Trump is preparing to visit Riyadh, where negotiations are underway on some of the most sensitive issues in U.S.-Saudi relations: nuclear cooperation, advanced technology transfers, and defense partnerships. The visit is being watched with intense scrutiny, for it comes as the kingdom balances its role as Washington's indispensable ally with its growing economic integration with China. In this context, even the symbolic act of formalizing BRICS membership could send a message that Riyadh is drifting away from its historic partnership with Washington and aligning itself with a bloc that openly challenges Western dominance of the global system. To understand why this question has become so fraught, it is important to recall the origins of BRICS itself. The grouping began as an idea rather than an institution, coined by a Goldman Sachs economist in 2001 to capture the promise of four rapidly growing economies: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. These countries formally came together in 2009, holding their first summit with the aim of creating a platform that would reflect the voices of emerging powers and challenge what they saw as the Western monopoly on international governance. South Africa joined a year later, transforming BRIC into BRICS. Over time, the bloc expanded its ambitions, establishing its own new development bank as a rival to the World Bank, and calling for reforms in international institutions like the IMF and United Nations Security Council. While critics have often dismissed BRICS as a loose coalition with limited achievements, its symbolic power has only grown as more countries express frustration with Western dominance and seek alternative frameworks for cooperation. In recent years, BRICS has attracted growing interest from countries across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. The United Arab Emirates and Egypt have already joined. Indonesia has been a regular participant in discussions. For many, the appeal lies in the promise of greater financial independence from Western-dominated systems, particularly through initiatives to trade in local currencies and develop alternatives to the US dollar as the world's reserve. Saudi Arabia, as the world's largest oil exporter and the custodian of Islam's holiest sites, represents a major prize for the bloc. Its participation would lend enormous credibility and economic weight to BRICS's claim to be reshaping the global order. And yet, Riyadh's response has been cautious. While it has taken part in BRICS meetings, most recently sending its deputy foreign minister to a gathering in Brazil, it has avoided making the decisive announcement that it is formally joining. Officially, the BRICS website lists Saudi Arabia as a member. But insiders in Riyadh confirm that no final decision has been taken. The government has not responded to requests for comment, and Brazilian officials, currently chairing BRICS, have deferred to the Saudis. This ambiguity is deliberate, reflecting the risks involved in making a choice that could have far-reaching consequences for the kingdom's most critical partnership, its alliance with the United States. The U.S.-Saudi relationship has been one of the most enduring pillars of Middle Eastern geopolitics since it was first forged in 1945, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt met King Abdulaziz on a U.S. warship in the Suez Canal. The bargain that emerged was simple yet powerful. The United States would provide security guarantees to the Saudi monarchy, supplying weapons, intelligence, and military support. In return, Saudi Arabia would ensure a steady supply of oil to the global market, denominated in US dollars, thereby reinforcing the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. This so-called oil for security pact has defined the relationship for nearly 80 years. Over that time, the alliance has weathered storms. The 1973 oil embargo, 9/11 and the involvement of Saudi nationals, the US invasion of Iraq, and the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi all strained ties at various points. Yet the core of the relationship endured. Saudi Arabia needed U.S. military protection and access to advanced technology, while the United States needed Saudi oil and the stability of the global energy market. Even in moments of tension, both sides found it difficult to walk away from this interdependence. What has changed in recent years is the rise of China. Over the past 2 decades, China has become the largest buyer of Saudi oil, surpassing the United States and Europe. Trade between the two countries has expanded rapidly, covering not just energy but also infrastructure, telecommunications, and emerging technologies. In 2023, Riyadh and Beijing signed agreements worth billions of dollars, covering everything from energy cooperation to investments in Saudi Arabia's ambitious Vision 2030 projects. Russia, too, has become a closer partner, particularly through their coordination in OPEC+, the expanded oil producers group that has sought to manage global supply and stabilize prices. India, another BRICS heavyweight, has also emerged as a key energy partner, with its fast-growing economy demanding ever more Saudi crude. From Riyadh's perspective, these relationships make BRICS an attractive platform. It offers opportunities to strengthen ties with its biggest oil customers, gain influence in shaping new global institutions, and diversify away from reliance on the West. At the same time, joining BRICS outright risks being seen in Washington as a tilt toward China and Russia, at precisely the moment when the kingdom is negotiating critical deals with the United States. One Saudi official privately admitted that the kingdom is engaged in a tightrope walk, trying to benefit from its growing economic ties with China without jeopardizing its indispensable security relationship with the United States. The challenge is compounded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's domestic agenda. His Vision 2030 plan seeks nothing less than the transformation of Saudi Arabia into a modern, diversified economy, less dependent on oil and more focused on technology, tourism, and investment. To achieve this, he needs vast amounts of foreign capital, advanced technology transfers, and security guarantees. While BRICS may provide new opportunities for investment and trade, only the United States and its Western allies can supply the cutting-edge technology and military cooperation required for the most ambitious parts of Vision 2030. The Crown Prince knows this, and it explains his caution in not rushing into a decision that could put those objectives at risk. The recent BRICS meeting in Rio de Janeiro illustrated these dynamics perfectly. Saudi Arabia sent its deputy foreign minister, signaling interest but not full commitment. The meeting itself ended without a joint statement, a reminder of the diverse and sometimes conflicting priorities within BRICS. For Riyadh, this provided a useful cover. It allowed the kingdom to show engagement without having to take a public stance that might complicate its relationship with Washington. For now, Riyadh's strategy appears to be one of calculated ambiguity. By participating in BRICS activities without formally joining, it keeps the door open to future opportunities while avoiding the immediate risks of alienating the United States. This ambiguity also strengthens Saudi Arabia's leverage in negotiations with Washington. By demonstrating that it has alternatives, Riyadh can pressure the United States to offer more favorable terms in nuclear cooperation, technology transfers, and defense deals. In other words, the mere possibility of BRICS membership can be used as a bargaining chip, even if the kingdom never fully commits. The coming weeks will be critical. Trump's visit to Riyadh will provide an opportunity for both sides to reaffirm the core of their relationship, but also to test how far the United States is willing to go to meet Saudi demands. If Washington proves responsive, Saudi Arabia may continue to delay any formal announcement about BRICS. If, however, the talks stall or the United States resists Saudi ambitions for nuclear energy and advanced technology, the temptation to lean more heavily on BRICS will grow. The broader context is the accelerating shift in global power dynamics. As the United States and China move toward open rivalry, countries like Saudi Arabia are being forced to make choices they would prefer to avoid. Riyadh's balancing act is emblematic of the dilemmas faced by many middle powers in this new era of competition. For now, the kingdom is doing everything it can to avoid choosing sides. But as the divide between Washington and Beijing deepens, it may eventually find that strategic ambiguity is no longer sustainable. What happens next will shape not only Saudi Arabia's future but also the balance of power in the Middle East and beyond. A Saudi decision to fully embrace BRICS would signal a major shift in the global order, accelerating the bloc's challenge to Western dominance and perhaps even weakening the foundations of the US led system. A decision to stay out